Welcome to today's devotional message from Trusting God Always. You prayed, you fasted, you waited, and still silence. Maybe this message is the sign you didn't know you needed, a gentle echo in the quiet spaces of your soul. If these words meet you right where you are, if they resonate with the ache in your chest, or the whisper of hope that refuses to die, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps us reach more souls who need God's comfort and the unshakable truth of His faithfulness. Comment below with your favorite Bible promise or the one you're still holding on to in the waiting. Let's begin, and let His word breathe new life into yours. You sit by the window, the late afternoon light casting long shadows across the floor. It's quiet, too quiet. A silence that feels less like peace and more like absence. A hollow echo where answers should reside. You trace the condensation on the glass, a familiar ache settling in your chest. It's the ache of waiting, isn't it? The waiting for a prayer to be answered, that fervent plea sent heavenward night after night. The waiting for a door to open, a path to clear, a breakthrough just beyond the horizon of your sight. The waiting for a burden to lift, a heavy weight on your shoulders that prayer hasn't yet seemed to lighten. The waiting for clarity in the fog, trying to see the next step when everything feels shrouded in uncertainty. Maybe you've been here for a long time now, long enough that the initial urgency, the white-knuckled grip on hope, has dulled into a persistent, low-grade weariness. You've prayed the prayers, perhaps even until the words felt thin and repetitive. You've quoted the promises, verses etched onto your heart or whispered into the darkness. Maybe you've even fasted, sacrificing physical comfort to underscore the depth of your spiritual longing, and sought counsel, seeking wisdom in trusted voices. Yet, here you are, still in the waiting room of life, watching others seem to receive their breakthroughs, their answers, their relief. They walk out, their faces alight, their burdens visibly lighter, and you remain seated, clutching your ticket for a turn that feels like it will never come. Comparison is a cruel thief of joy in this season, isn't it? You see someone else's yes and can't help but wonder if God misplaced your request somewhere in the vast cosmos, or worse, intentionally ignored it. Maybe you whisper the question again, the one that haunts the quiet moments when distractions fade. God, are you still there? Do you see me? Hidden here in the shadows of this long season, do you hear me, even when my voice feels lost in the silence? The silence offers no immediate reply, no sudden trumpet blast from the heavens, no burning bush in the corner of your room. And the enemy of your soul, ever vigilant, is quick to fill that void with his insidious whispers of doubt. You're forgotten. You clearly weren't important enough. Your faith isn't strong enough to move mountains, not even this molehill you're facing. This is never going to change. You're stuck here forever. It is like the hidden darkness where the deepest roots of a mighty tree grow strong, anchoring it against future storms. It is a wilderness season where faith learns to stand, not on visible evidence, the sight of the promised land, but on the unseen character of God Himself. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. This message is for the weary waiter, the hopeful lingerer, the one whose heart, despite the fatigue and the doubt, still whispers, I believe, even when their eyes see only the unmoving obstacle, the closed door, the persistent darkness. It is a gentle invitation to lean into the discomfort, into the vulnerability of needing and not yet having, to understand the profound purpose woven into the pause. God is here. He sees you, every tear, every frustrated sigh, every quiet longing. He hears you, even when your prayers feel like they bounce off the ceiling. And the waiting? The very season you yearn to escape? It might just be His most profound, most transformative work in your life right now. Sometimes, the greatest growth happens not in the breakthrough, but in the barren land just before it. It is in this not yet that God refines your trust, strengthens your spirit, and prepares you for the not only He has in store. The calendar pages turn, the milestones pass, and the promise you hold on to feels like a distant echo. You've done everything you know to do. You've prayed, you've hoped, you've maybe even tried to make it happen yourself. And the silence stretches on, vast and empty as a desert sky. This is the wilderness of waiting. Step back in time. Walk with Abraham. God called him out, a wandering soul with a heart open to the divine whisper. God stood with him under the cloak of night, pointed to the heavens dusted with 1,000,000 tiny lights, and said, "Your descendants will be like that." Genesis 15:5. Stars, a magnificent sweeping promise, painted across the canvas of the cosmos. But look closer. The years peel away like bark from a tree. Abraham and Sarah grow older. Their arms remain empty. Sarah's womb is a closed garden. The stars seem a cruel jest when the reality is just dust beneath their feet. How do you anchor your hope to a celestial guarantee when the earthly evidence screams impossibility? How do you trust a divine timeline that seems indifferent to the ticking clock of your own life, your own fading strength? Abraham felt this ache, this deep, unsettling silence between the promise and the present. Impatience is a tempting companion in the waiting. It whispers, "God needs a little help, doesn't He?" The years are passing, and so, in a moment born of weariness and a desire to assist the Almighty, Abraham went to Hagar, a human solution to a divine problem. A stark, painful reminder that trying to force God's hand or help His perfect plan along often leads us down tangled paths far from His intended straight and narrow. Abraham's path wasn't a march of unwavering confidence. It was a stumble, a wobble, a moment of fear, a detour, and a return to trust. His waiting wasn't just about the biological miracle of Isaac. It was about becoming the father of many nations, a transformation of his identity, his understanding of God, and his capacity to trust. This transformation wasn't complete until he grasped God's ability to resurrect hope from barrenness, to orchestrate perfect timing beyond human calendars. The profound truth etched into Abraham's story is this: true faith is rarely about standing firm when the promise is visible. It's forged in the long, challenging, often silent space between the glorious promise and its tangible fulfillment. It's in the desert heat, not just the promised land. It's a paradox. Strength is found in the surrender to waiting. Perhaps your own impossible promise feels just as far away, hidden behind a veil of silence. Maybe you too have felt the pull to help God, or found yourself weary, staring at your own empty arms or unmet dreams. The quiet call to your heart, echoing across the millennia from Abraham's journey, is this: can you, like Abraham eventually did, choose to believe God's unwavering character, His goodness, His faithfulness, His power, over the crushing weight of your current circumstances. Can you finally rest in the truth that what He has promised, He is utterly faithful to perform? Not necessarily in your way or your time, but most certainly in His perfect way and in His perfect time. As the Scripture says of Abraham, he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God, but was strengthened in his faith and gave glory to God. Romans 4, verse 20. This strength isn't born of seeing, but of believing in the unseen author of the promise. The fire feels close now, doesn't it? Maybe it's the heat of anticipation, or perhaps the scorching frustration of a promise yet unfulfilled, a prayer unanswered, a door that remains stubbornly shut. You stand in the middle of this intense warmth, uncertain if you're meant to be melted down or forged anew. This feeling, this prolonged, uncomfortable state of delay, it's the crucible. Imagine for a moment a goldsmith at work. He doesn't simply hold the precious metal in his hand and wish it pure. No, he places it in a crucible, a vessel designed to withstand extreme heat, and subjects it to a fire so intense it would consume lesser things. This isn't about destruction. It is a fierce, precise act of purification. As the temperature rises, the dross, the impurities, the unwanted elements mixed with the pure gold, they bubble up, they rise to the surface, and then, with a steady hand, the goldsmith skims them away. Your waiting season? It feels exactly like this intense heat. It burns away so many things you've perhaps unknowingly relied on. It scorches the edges of your self-reliance, that quiet confidence in your own ability to fix things. It challenges your desperate need for control, revealing how little power you truly hold over timelines and outcomes. It exposes the comfortable idols you might have erected, other people's opinions as your compass, the frantic speed of society as your benchmark, or the illusion of your own strength as your security. And in that burning, it reveals what remains, what you truly trust when everything else feels stripped away. Your own depleted resources, the shifting sands of external validation, or the steady, unwavering faithfulness of God. This period of delay is rarely about God withholding something from you out of disinterest or forgetfulness. More often, it's about God doing a deep, necessary, sacred work in you. He is not just preparing the blessing. He is preparing you for the blessing, increasing your capacity to receive and steward it. He is refining your character, chiseling away the rough edges, making you more resilient, more like His Son. He is strengthening your dependence, drawing you back to Him as your sole, sufficient source. The impatience that gnaws at you, it's the dross of your hurried timeline rising to the surface, an opportunity to surrender your clock to His eternal one. The anxiety that tightens your chest, it's a chance, however unwelcome, to practice casting your tares, one by one, onto the one who cares for you. The uncertainty that clouds your vision, it's a profound invitation to find security not in knowing the future, but in knowing the unchanging, trustworthy nature of God Himself. Consider the ancient words, a balm for souls in the fire. In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. 1 Peter 1:6-7. Can you see your current trial, your difficult waiting season, not merely as suffering inflicted upon you, but as a divine, purposeful refining process happening within you? How might focusing less on the discomfort of the fire and more on the proven genuineness of the faith it is producing change your perspective today, right where you are, in the heat of the crucible? You look at the calendar, the days blurring into weeks, the weeks into months. You prayed, you waited, you did the things you felt God asked you to do, but still, the answer feels miles away. You measure progress by what you see, the closed door, the unanswered email, the same struggle you faced last year. And in the stillness of this waiting, a quiet dread creeps in. Am I forgotten? Is anything happening at all? You feel stagnant, like a seed that refuses to sprout, hidden beneath the heavy soil of circumstance. Think about a mighty oak tree. You stand beneath its vast canopy, awestruck by branches reaching for the sky, a testament to centuries of growth. But what is its secret? What allows it to withstand storms that would shatter smaller trees, winds that would uproot weaker ones? The strength isn't primarily in the visible. It's in the hidden work happening underground. While you admire the majestic silhouette above, the real resilience is in the roots, silently, tirelessly, pushing deeper into the earth, anchoring the tree with an unseen grip, seeking nourishment in the darkness. Your waiting season is often this vital, often frustrating, period of unseen root growth. You might feel stagnant on the surface, like nothing is happening, seeing no visible progress towards the breakthrough you desperately desire. But beneath the surface of your circumstance, in the hidden quiet of your soul, God is deepening your roots. He is cultivating character, building resilience against future trials, forging a trust in Him that is not dependent on what you see or feel. He is building the inner fortitude required to sustain the very thing you are waiting for. Imagine a harvest pulled too soon before the roots are deep enough to support the fruit. The tree would topple under the first strong wind, unable to bear the weight of its own bounty. Sometimes, the greatest kindness God offers is the delay that allows your roots to grow strong enough for what's coming. Ephesians 3:17 speaks of being rooted and established in love. This depth of spiritual stability isn't achieved overnight. It requires time. It often requires pressure, and most significantly, it requires unseen development in the hidden places of your heart. The powerful spiritual insight here is recognizing that God's most crucial work in you might be happening precisely when you feel most unproductive, preparing you not just for the breakthrough, but for the stability required to steward it, whether it brings abundance or calls for strength in future challenges. Sometimes the most profound progress isn't seen on the surface, but felt in the unseen depths God is cultivating within you. The quiet call to reflection in this hidden season is this: how can you cooperate with God in this vital root-growing process? What spiritual disciplines, a persistent habit of prayer even when words feel dry, a consistent turning to Scripture even when understanding is clouded, a quiet reflection that stills the noise of impatience, can help your roots go deeper into the rich, fertile soil of His unwavering love and unchanging truth while you wait. This waiting is not wasted. It is the essential grounding for the growth to come. The cell door feels heavy, doesn't it? Maybe it's not iron and stone, but the weight of a situation that feels like a cage you can't escape. You prayed for open doors, for swift rescue, for a miracle that would shatter the bars. But instead, you find yourself here, day after day, the silence pressing in, the hope growing dim. Was God's promise a mirage? Were those dreams you held on to just cruel illusions? It feels like you've been forgotten in the darkness, left to languish, while life moves on outside your confined space. This waiting, this stagnant, unfair season, it's your dungeon. Step back in time with Joseph, a young man bathed in the bright light of prophetic dreams. He saw sheaves bowing, stars and moons honoring him, a future of influence and honor promised by the divine. Yet, his path twisted violently, not towards palaces, but into a pit dug by brothers consumed by envy. From there, slavery in a foreign land, then a cruel betrayal, a false accusation that stripped him of everything and landed him precisely where we find him now, a dark Egyptian prison cell. Years melted away. Years of unfulfilled prophecy, of watching the sunrise paint the prison walls, knowing freedom was outside but unreachable. Imagine the crushing questions that must have echoed in that stone chamber. Did God lie? Was it all just youthful fantasy? Am I lost here forever? It is the raw, vulnerable cry of a soul trapped in divine delay. But the ancient text whispers a truth that pierces the gloom. Even in that suffocation cell, even after the unfairness, the isolation, the forgotten dreams, the narrative declares the Lord was with Joseph. Genesis 39, verse 21. He wasn't rescued immediately. He wasn't plucked out of the difficulty. Instead, God was present in the waiting. His presence didn't cancel the struggle, it sanctified it. This is a profound, gentle paradox of faith. Sometimes the most potent sign of God's presence is not the removal of the trial, but His steady company within it. You might feel abandoned, unseen, unheard, but just as with Joseph, the hand of God is there, guiding, sustaining, waiting. The wilderness path often leads through the valley, and it is in the valley that the deepest roots are formed. This wasn't wasted time. That prison was Joseph's university. Stripped of status and identity, he learned humility, shedding the arrogance that perhaps his youthful dreams had fostered. With no one else to turn to, he learned absolute reliance on God in a way he never could have in the comfort of his father's home or the bustle of Potiphar's estate. He wasn't idle. He managed the prison, demonstrating leadership skills that were being honed and tested away from the spotlight. Patience, perseverance, discernment, wisdom, these were forged in the fire of unfair suffering and the crucible of delay. God used the waiting, the painful, unjust isolation, to cultivate the character required to govern an entire nation, to steward immense power with integrity, to forgive those who had wronged him. The man who walked out of prison years later was not the same starry-eyed youth who fell into the pit. He was tempered, deepened, ready for the immense responsibility that awaited him, a responsibility he could only handle because of the lessons learned in the dungeon. Perhaps your dungeon is a season that feels similarly trapped, a job you desperately want to leave but can't, a relationship that feels locked in conflict, a financial struggle that limits every possibility. A health crisis that keeps you confined, physically or emotionally. It feels unfair, soul-wearying, forgotten by grace. Can you, like Joseph, dare to trust that God is with you, even in this most desolate feeling place? Can you trust that the very things you wish would end immediately, the constraint, the waiting, the struggle, are precisely where God is cultivating skills, deepening your character, building a reliance on Him that you will need for a future you can't yet see, a future greater than you can imagine from within these walls. He is not absent. He is weaving His purpose through the very fabric of your struggle. He is preparing you in the waiting, not just after it. Remember Joseph's profound understanding, spoken years later to the brothers who had thrown him away. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50:20. Your current dungeon may feel intended for harm, for defeat, for being forgotten. But with God, it is always intended for good, for preparation, for an unfolding story of His faithfulness and your transformation. Lean into His presence, even in the dark. Trust the work He is doing, unseen, within the walls. You sit in the silence, the weight of the unseen burden heavy on your chest. It's like being in a car, foot pressed hard on the gas pedal, the engine roaring, but the vehicle is utterly, stubbornly still. You expend enormous energy trying to force movement, to control the stubborn wheels of life's circumstances, to predict a future that remains shrouded in mist. This resistance to the present reality, this unwilling, frustrating state of waiting or being stuck, ignites a bonfire of internal stress, anxiety, and raw frustration within you. Your hands grip the steering wheel of your life so tightly, your knuckles white, convinced you know the best route, the perfect speed, the shortest path out of the current difficulty. All the while, God, with gentle hands, is quietly rerouting the GPS, leading you down a path you couldn't have foreseen, towards a destination richer than you could imagine. This isn't about giving up. Surrender is giving over. It's the courageous act of releasing your white-knuckle grip on the timeline you've planned, the outcome you've demanded, and placing them with open hands into the care of a God who not only sees the whole map, but knows every winding road, every detour, and possesses the perfect timing for your journey. It is an active, moment-by-moment choice to trust His perfect wisdom over your limited understanding, His boundless power over your finite striving. This sacred act of surrender is the very place where true, abiding peace begins to break through the relentless noise of anxiety. You see it modeled perfectly in the ultimate moment of human agony and divine resolve, as Jesus Himself wrestled in the Garden of Gethsemane, whispering, "Yet not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22:42. The profound spiritual insight here is this: surrender is never a passive resignation to an indifferent fate, but an active, moment-by-moment alignment of your own precious will with the perfect, loving will of God. It is a step of audacious faith that disarms the crushing power of worry, turning trembling hands into hands open to receive. The reflection whispers now, gentle as the morning dew. What specific outcome, what precise timeline, what single stubborn circumstance are you currently gripping so tightly that your spirit aches? Can you, in this quiet moment, deliberately open your hands, not in defeat, but in defiant trust, and intentionally release it? That worry, that fear, that timeline, to God in prayer. What might it truly look like to finally rest, truly rest, in the breathtaking promise that as you surrender, as you open your hands, He is not passive. He works within you. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. Philippians chapter 2, verse 13. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. There is rest in releasing the wheel. There is strength in letting go. You watch the clock. The minutes crawl by, heavy like stones. You check your phone again, refreshing the screen as if the sheer force of your finger could conjure a response, a sign, a breakthrough. The world outside your window rushes past. Cars zip, sirens wail, notifications ping, deliveries promise instant gratification. You are swimming in a tide of speed, a culture that worships the swift, the immediate, the now. It's easy, dangerously easy, to let that frantic pace set the rhythm for your soul. You've prayed about that thing? You've poured out your heart, maybe for days, weeks, months, even years, and still the answer feels distant. The situation remains unchanged. The silence feels deafening against the world's clamor. In the face of instant downloads and express shipping for almost everything else, God's timing can feel incredibly slow, even neglectful. You start projecting the world's breakneck rhythm onto the divine dance of the Creator, and the disconnect aches, breeding frustration, doubt, a quiet despair that whispers, "Does He hear? Does He care? Is He even working?" But God operates on a different clock. His is not calibrated for human impatience, but for ultimate flourishing, for perfect alignment, for a depth of purpose we often cannot grasp from our limited vantage point. Consider creation itself. Did God simply snap His fingers and behold, the entire universe sprang forth in a single, instantaneous burst? He certainly could have, but He chose a process. He spoke day by day, step by step, bringing order from chaos, light from darkness, life from dust, over time. He didn't just make a tree. He embedded within its very being the blueprint for slow, steady growth, season after season. He didn't just create a river. He set its course, knowing it would carve canyons and nourish valleys over millennia. Think of salvation history, a long, unfolding narrative spanning generations, filled with prophets, kings, exiles, and returns, all culminating precisely when the world was ready, in the quiet birth of Christ. God's work is almost always a process, a journey, not a quick fix tailored to our discomfort or timeline. He is never, ever late, though His arrival, His answer, His way is almost always profoundly different from our expectations. His slow is not delay. It is divine calibration. It is pregnant with purpose we cannot yet perceive, holding within it factors we cannot fathom: your readiness, the readiness of others involved, the optimal conditions for His overarching purposes, and the maximum potential for His glory to be revealed not just in the outcome, but in the journey itself. This is the spiritual insight that can quiet the frantic ticking in your soul. God's timing is perfect because it encompasses all factors. It sees the end from the beginning. It knows the impact His answer will have on ripples you can't even see forming yet. It's not a delay designed to punish or ignore you. It's divine calibration, like a master clockmaker setting the gears of the universe into motion with painstaking precision. How deeply has the world's relentless demand for speed influenced your perception of God's work in your life? Has the pressure to have things fixed now made you question His faithfulness when His timeline differs from yours? Can you consciously choose in this moment to align your spirit with His eternal, patient rhythm? Can you breathe deep and whisper, "He is working"? It requires a surrender of the stopwatch, a relinquishing of the calendar you've mentally imposed on the Almighty. It means trusting that He is working according to His plan and purpose, Ephesians 1:11, even when that plan feels shrouded in mystery and that purpose feels painfully distant. The prophet Habakkuk was told, "For the vision is yet for the appointed time. It hastens toward the goal and will not fail. Though it tarries, wait for it will certainly come. It will not delay." Habakkuk 2:3. The promise is it will come. The instruction is wait. This waiting, this learning of God's pace is where true peace often resides. It's finding a stillness in the storm of impatience, a quiet confidence in the unseen movement of His hand. It's realizing that while with the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day, 2 Peter 3:8, this paradox isn't just about His perspective on time. It's about His capacity within time. He can accomplish more in a seemingly slow moment than we could orchestrate in 1,000 hurried years. His patience isn't inaction, it is preparation. His waiting is not absence. It is the fertile ground where character is formed and faith deepens roots stronger than anxiety. Maybe the quiet call today is simply this: lay down the stopwatch of your expectations. Stop projecting the world's frantic rhythm onto the steady beat of God's heart. He isn't rushing because He doesn't need to. He is sovereign over every second, every season. Can you trust that the timing is part of the plan? Can you find rest, not in the arrival of the answer, but in the absolute certainty of the answerer's perfect timing? He holds your life, your future, your longed-for desire, in hands that spun galaxies into being and orchestrated salvation history to its perfect climax. His pace is not neglect, it is grace-filled, purpose-driven precision. Lean into it, breathe it in, trust His rhythm. You sit on the edge of your life, metaphorically speaking, feeling like you're just waiting for the main act. The stage lights are dim. The curtain hasn't risen on the dream job, the hoped-for relationship, the long-awaited healing, or whatever next big thing occupies your longing. Your present feels like a rehearsal room, a temporary placeholder, a pause button pressed on living fully until the real future arrives. This waiting can feel hollow, a void where purpose seems suspended. You might find yourself drifting through days, dissatisfied, marking time, convincing yourself that genuine living begins only after the breakthrough. The mundane feels empty, the small moments insignificant because they aren't the grand event you're anticipating. It's easy to overlook the life happening right now while your gaze is fixed solely on the horizon. But what if the pause isn't empty? What if this season of waiting is actually brimming with sacred purpose, hidden in plain sight? God isn't just preparing you for something grand in the future. He is intimately present and actively working in this very moment. The stillness isn't a vacuum. It's fertile ground for cultivating deeper gratitude for the blessings you do possess today. It's a quiet space to learn the rhythms of rest and patience, to lean into serving others right where you are, to simply be in His presence without the performance anxiety of the next big thing. The wilderness can hold springs of water if you know where to look. The small, often overlooked moments, a quiet sunrise, a genuine conversation, a simple act of kindness, these are not fillers. They are the substance of a life lived faithfully today. Your current season, however uncertain or stagnant it might feel compared to your desired outcome, is not a delay. It's a divine opportunity. It is a crucible for spiritual growth, a chance to practice trust when the path isn't clear, an invitation to find profound meaning in the unscripted present. The challenge isn't to somehow conjure the future now, but to fully inhabit the now God has given you. What small moments of purpose, connection, or quiet blessing are you overlooking while you wait for something bigger? How can you actively choose to engage with the life God has placed before you today, finding meaning and serving Him right where you are? Colossians 3:23 whispers this truth: "Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men." There is purpose in whatever your hands find to do, even in the pause. Galatians 6:9 echoes the enduring power of faithfulness in the present. So then, let us not be weary in doing good, for in due time we will reap if we do not give up. The calendar page turns again, marked perhaps by a fading prayer request scrawled years ago. Another sunrise paints the window pane, another day unfolds, and still the circumstance remains unchanged. You feel it, don't you? That slow, relentless erosion? Each tick of the clock, without the desired breakthrough, feels like a tiny wave chipping away at the foundation of your belief. The hope you held so tightly yesterday feels a little looser today. Doubt, the subtle serpent, begins to whisper its insidious questions. Does God still hear? Did I misunderstand the promise? Was I just fooling myself? He spoke of a faith so small, it was like a mustard seed. Matthew 17:20. Think about a mustard seed. It's minuscule, almost invisible to the casual glance. It holds within it the promise of growth. Yes, but in its current state, it possesses no inherent power to move anything. Yet, Jesus didn't say you needed faith the size of the mountain to move it. He said faith the size of that tiny, almost imperceptible seed could command it to be removed, and it would obey. It's not the perfection of your grasp, but the strength of the hand you are clinging to, however feebly. It's not about feeling like you have faith the size of a boulder. It's about remembering that the one you trust can crumble mountains, even if your trust feels no bigger than a speck of dust today. The profound spiritual insight here, especially in seasons of long waiting, is this: your faith isn't measured by how strong, confident, or simply better than a boulder or unshakable you feel when the storm rages or the silence stretches. The calendar page turns again, marked perhaps by a fading prayer request scrawled years ago. Another sunrise paints the window pane, another day unfolds, and still the circumstance remains unchanged. You feel it, don't you? That slow, relentless erosion? Each tick of the clock, without the desired breakthrough, feels like a tiny wave chipping away at the foundation of your belief. The hope you held so tightly yesterday feels a little looser today. Doubt, the subtle serpent, begins to whisper its insidious questions. Does God still hear? Did I misunderstand the promise? Was I just fooling myself? He spoke of a faith so small, it was like a mustard seed. Matthew 17:20. Think about a mustard seed. It's minuscule, almost invisible to the casual glance. It holds within it the promise of growth. Yes, but in its current state, it possesses no inherent power to move anything. Yet, Jesus didn't say you needed faith the size of the mountain to move it. He said faith the size of that tiny, almost imperceptible seed could command it to be removed, and it would obey. It's not the perfection of your grasp, but the strength of the hand you are clinging to, however feebly. It's not about feeling like you have faith the size of a boulder. It's about remembering that the one you trust can crumble mountains, even if your trust feels no bigger than a speck of dust today. The profound spiritual insight here, especially in seasons of long waiting, is this: your faith isn't measured by how strong, confident, or simply better than a boulder or unshakable you feel when the storm rages or the silence stretches. The calendar page turns again, marked perhaps by a fading prayer request scrawled years ago. Another sunrise paints the window pane, another day unfolds, and still the circumstance remains unchanged. You feel it, don't you? That slow, relentless erosion? Each tick of the clock, without the desired breakthrough, feels like a tiny wave chipping away at the foundation of your belief. The hope you held so tightly yesterday feels a little looser today. Doubt, the subtle serpent, begins to whisper its insidious questions. Does God still hear? Did I misunderstand the promise? Was I just fooling myself? He spoke of a faith so small, it was like a mustard seed. Matthew 17:20. Think about a mustard seed. It's minuscule, almost invisible to the casual glance. It holds within it the promise of growth. Yes, but in its current state, it possesses no inherent power to move anything. Yet, Jesus didn't say you needed faith the size of the mountain to move it. He said faith the size of that tiny, almost imperceptible seed could command it to be removed, and it would obey. It's not the perfection of your grasp, but the strength of the hand you are clinging to, however feebly. It's not about feeling like you have faith the size of a boulder. It's about remembering that the one you trust can crumble mountains, even if your trust feels no bigger than a speck of dust today. The profound spiritual insight here, especially in seasons of long waiting, is this: your faith isn't measured by how strong, confident, or simply better than a boulder or unshakable you feel when the storm rages or the silence stretches.